the Overman Warrior Podcast.
Well, I have 10 here, I'm going to get 12, 15 here, I'm going to get 10, 1100, I know you work 11, 12, 13, 1300 here, I'm going to get 1213, 14, 15, 1400, 1500 out of 14 there. I'm going to get 1500, 1400 out of 15, 15, 16, 17, 1717, 1700 out of it's your turn. 17, look her in the eye and tell her no. 1700 here, 16, 17, it's your back. 1600, 17, you want it? Now 18, 1800, 17, 18. 1800, 17, 18, 18, 18, 17 half, 18. He's getting weak. 1800 out of it now. 1800, 17 to the ball, 1800. 18 there, 17, 18, all fair. You done? 18, don't quit yet for the kids. 1800 out of 17 half, 18, 1800. Everybody have their say. So right here to the gentleman in the front row, 17 half, and they'll take care of it.
To a great night.
Great night.
Hi, it's Rich Hoffman here. I have to say it was really nice to go to the Butler County Friends of Youth Shooting Sports, the annual fundraiser dinner and auction they had on March 6th of 26. Nice event with a lot of good people there, and I have to say I really enjoyed meeting a lot of young people, and I really enjoyed meeting the children of Butler County Treasurer Mike McNamara. He's done a really good job filling the big shoes at Nancy Nix, who's now auditor. When she was treasurer, it was great. He has really stepped into that role and done a great job. And as I've gotten to know him a little bit at different events here and there, I think when he started that role, I kind of figured nobody could do it as good as Nancy Nix. And he's really grown on me. And I was very impressed to see how committed to the shooting sports and shooting Second Amendment issues that he is. He's very solid, and he has a very solid family. And I really enjoyed his kids. They were, you meet a lot of kids, and you can see a lot about the parents in the kids as you see their eyes. And there was a light in those. In his children's eyes that I found very refreshing. Good kids. And there was a lot of good kids at this event. And it's just nice to see all the I don't want to call it liberalisms. I think the people who go to these kinds of shooting events are normal, very large crowds. It's what most people think and believe. But then when you go to Walmart and you interact with other secular elements of society, everybody feels they have to be accommodating and give people who aren't so bright-eyed in the world a fair shake. People who may not have had good parents to raise them. And when I talk about Mike McNamara's kids, we got into a discussion because I'm always wearing a cowboy hat, and they had very nice cowboy hats on, and these are young kids, and it's good to see them proclaiming themselves in that way at a young age. And I used to wear, even in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, I used to wear a cowboy hat everywhere. And when people would ask me then, and they still ask me, why do you do that? And I say, well, that's my it's like wearing a T-shirt or a pin or some identifier that says, I'm aspiring to be something different than what the mainstream world is presenting. And that mainstream world is what I say about the Walmart type people. You have mass society, all goes to get the same eggs and same bread. Say they have the same belief system. Well, they want to. But there's a layer under that of values that are very traditional. And they accommodate people who are broken or don't have access to healthy thought patterns in their life. Conservatives tend to be accommodating of those deficiencies. But then when you go to something like this auction for the Friends of Youth Shooting Sports, and you see how good it is for young people to get involved in shooting sports, because the care of guns, as I've always said, and firearms in general, it does something for a human being to manage danger. And so to take a gun or a firearm and handle it properly, you don't see school shootings happening from those kinds of people, or the kind of kids that I'm talking about. They go to these events and win awards, and that everybody's there to celebrate. They tend to produce people who grow up and become good people because it starts with cleaning a gun and handling guns properly and knowing how to shoot straight and hit targets. And if you can do that in a sport, you tend to do that in life, whether it's I'm going to buy a new car, I'm going to get married, I'm going to have kids of my own, I'm going to teach them all I can to be good people, I'm going to live a healthy, constructive life. And it really starts with a celebration of the opportunity to have that. And I just enjoy being around people where every single person in the room, a very large room of people from Butler County who come out to this kind of event and events like it, but dedicated certainly to the Second Amendment. It's very reassuring to see that there's a lot of people out there who share fundamental belief systems, and that's off the mainstream grid of popular media that is obviously pushing for a more liberal world, a world that doesn't have gun ownership. I don't think it's possible to have a world where you can't defend yourself, because every time it happens, you end up with some sort of administrative intrusion on people's personal liberties and lives. And that's not the trajectory of the human race, is to be obedient to some mass control influence, whether it's a king, a tyrannical regime, Marxism in the form of having an authority government and calling it for the people's own good, to take on a parental role of government over the people that it's supposed to be serving, and instead the people end up serving the government. The healthy checks on power is gun ownership, and I think in regard to that, there was a lot of very prominent people at this event, and it was good to see them fully put their arm around the Second Amendment and understand what it means. And I think Sheriff Jones, Butler County Sheriff, very popular. He just the Butler County Jail was freshly featured on the Discovery Channel as a jail, the lifestyle, its fun, its function. Sheriff Jones's role in setting a culture that is very productive for law and order. Butler County Jail was highly featured, and it was a very good Discovery Channel episode. And I think Sheriff Jones, it starts with people like him, certainly treasurers like Mike McNamara, senators like George Lang. Of course, everybody knows I like George so much. And George has been affiliated, very supportive of shooting sports, shooting activities, second call defense. So if you end up in some sort of tragic shooting circumstance, you call 911 the first call. Second call is to second call defense, so they can get a legal defense network there to protect you from legal intrusions that typically accompany shootings of any kind. Ohio is a much better state on shooting now than it was even a decade ago. There's a much more of a emphasis on the right to defense, your right to defend your own personal rights that just wasn't present even in decades leading up to the present. And it comes to a lot of people who are at this fundraiser. Their actions have been very good for the Second Amendment. And the event was really put on by Sean Maloney, and I know him from Second Call Defense. He's the main guy. It's a passion project that he's been involved in for a long time, and it's been very effective. Second Call Defense is a great network. That's why I support them. So you go to these things, and you typically I like to just kind of go and enjoy it, enjoy the good food, enjoy the good company, talk about good stuff that we can all kind of share, get off the mainstream grid for a minute, and just talk about things that people are concerned about. And it's encouraging to hear so many people that way at these events. But even that said, above and beyond that, I think Sheriff Jones gave a little speech that captured the kind of the mood of the room and the mood of the current political order. And he talked about President Trump and all the things that are going on with President Trump. And we're talking about micro, macro, social movements and philosophies that are shaping, I think, the human race in big ways. And I tend to talk about the buzzword human race a lot because I think of things in grand scales. Even though this is Butler County, Ohio, and I had a question come up the other day: is why have I stayed in Butler County, Ohio, all these years when I've had opportunities to work and live in all kinds of places around the world? And I've been to lots of places that a lot of people think are the best. And I think Sheriff Jones gave, in his speech that he gave, kind of cited why I still live in Butler County. I live in Butler County because of the kind of philosophy he articulated. And well, why don't I just show you what he said, and for the context of everything I'll have to say about Butler County and shooting sports in general. Let's take a minute to hear the great Sheriff Jones.
2 minutes is to talk about being sheriff and to say a few words like Sheriff Jones likes to say, to give everybody an opportunity to go in and get that $100 from magazine, and you're probably going to have a 1 in less than 50 chance of doing that. So we're going to have the magazines for sale. So let's get it going. And Sheriff, I'm going to open the view. Look, I want everybody in here to realize being sheriff isn't for sissies, okay? And if you stand up, you got to take with what comes your way. At any given day, I've got 20 lawsuits against me. At any given day. It never stops. And I'm going to tell you where it starts. When you have a spine. Not like a jellyfish that has no spine. If you stand up and you deport people and you fight for the right cause, you got to take what comes your way. And I take it. I take it for all of you in this room. Every one of you. And I mean that. Look, when I go to the restroom, I got to lay my gun on the sink. I have people that follow me, threaten me, but look, I'm okay. I know if somebody kills me, I'm going to get a hell of a funeral. And my wife's going to make a lot of money. And look, she knows it's real bad when I come home and there's a cruiser in the yard. She says, there's something you want to tell me? I said, nah, I'm not going to pay attention to that. It's okay. But look, I have 400 illegals in my jail. Illegal aliens in your jail in Butler County right now as we speak. So far this year, we have deported from your jail over 2,000 illegals. Not 200, 2,000. From 160 different countries. They speak every kind of language there is to speak. I put in a sign up out front that says illegal aliens. I use the alien word. It's not a bad word. Those of you that are lawyers, like, where's Jonathan at? He's here somewhere. Look, aliens is a legal term. But when President Trump got elected, you're a racist or you're a bigot if you use that word. I use it every day, all day long. I don't stop. I put the sign that says illegal aliens here with an arrow pointing to it because I want the federal government to know if they can't find them, I know where they're at. They're in my jail. My deputies are certified and trained to make arrests with ICE. We can't do it by ourselves. We, along with ICE, in your county, have arrested over 200. Over 200 illegals in your county. We had an illegal that hit a lady that was going to work. Was a nurse. Been arrested like 5 times. They let him go. 4 times. They let him go. He drunk 5 times the legal limit. Hit a lady going to work, broke her spine. She's in the hospital. I could go on and on. In your county, the rapes, the molestation, the drunk driving. Now, you've got to be able to stand up. You've got to be able to have a spine. I have that spine, and without the President of the United States, who passes that spine down to me, we can't get any luckier than that. Than to have a president. We've had millions of people come across our border. I know they're in a hurry tonight, but I want you to be prepared. There's terrorists here. I don't care who tells you they're not. They're lying to you. I've been to the border, and I've been doing this border stuff for 20 years. Older than some people in this room. I'm on every border committee there is. What they call the people that come across to President Biden. Let's hear it for President Biden. Yeah. Hey, give him an ice cream. Listen. Boo. Listen. They bring these people in. There's over 20 million people that's come across this border. They think illegal. That don't count what they call the getaways, or the gotaways. These are the people that come across and carry things and are here to do us harm. When you go on vacation, be careful. When your family travels, be careful. When there's a festival somewhere, be careful. And I'm not afraid. I've lived a good life. And like I said, the United States and here in Butler County, we take care of our own. I'm proud of all of you. Let's stand up. I want everybody, we're going to do a little chant before we leave. Stand up. Listen. And those of you that can't get up real good, help them up. This is pretty important. Every year I like to do this. And listen, I'm not talking about you. You're okay. But I was talking, where's my tattoo guy? Pain. He needs help sometimes. His little arm hurts. So his wife's the muscle of his outfit. Let's get the chants going first. First one. Trump, 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 Trump. Let's get the next ones going. Vance, 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 Vance. Hopefully the next president of the United States of America is from Butler County. The next one. USA, USA, USA. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. God bless this great country. Hey, buy these magazines. It's a good chance to win this weapon, and you'll be the most famous guy besides the sheriff in the room.
Your $100 on these gets you the magazine, which, as you can tell, is full color.
So there's political events like that occur all over the United States. There's a lot of them in Ohio. But as far as Butler County goes, Butler County is pretty unique. I remember the first few months of Trump's first term, CNN came to Butler County. In fact, came to a pub, Rick's Sports Bar, I think it was called, Rick's Tavern. And it was literally right across the street right down the street, almost in the same shopping plaza as where this event took place for the youth sports, where Sheriff Jones gave that speech. And they came to interview a bunch of us and find out why we supported Trump, even though the media put out all these alarms about him, all the scandalous accusations that were thrown in his direction to try and derail him in the ways that power structures try to retain control over populations. And the the way you enforce free speech, and ultimately Trump won and won again in 2024. I would argue he won again in 2020. A lot of the ways that you can keep power structures from taking over, and like they certainly tried to in 2020. And the only reason there was a return to sanity in 2024, I would say free speech drove it because people have opinions about things, but they're allowed to articulate those opinions because of gun ownership. If you didn't have a population in that room where Sheriff Jones was speaking, and that's a large portion of Butler County in general, that's why I live in Butler County, the attitude, everybody in that room was a gun owner, have at least one gun, and probably have a safe of guns. Because that is always in the background, because gun ownership is so key to a successful governance of society, you can then have the intelligent discussions articulating your political positions without tyrannical force taking over the mechanisms of communication. And Butler County, Ohio, has always been very, very accommodating of gun rights relative to other places in the state of Ohio. But it starts with, and Sheriff Jones has been a good sheriff for many years. I think it's 6 terms now. I think he's going on his 7th. And that's a lot to do with his personal skill. He is really good at setting a culture and articulating ideas and pounding them home into what others have to emulate. And you need that. That's why he was featured on the Discovery Channel to have one of the, I'd say it's the best jail, one of the best jails, certainly, in the entire United States. And at this thing, there's a lot of jokes about the prison food there, or the jail food. And they had a warden burger, and I've had the warden burger. As kind of when I was there on a tour for a couple different events. I've been there to see Sheriff Jones a few times, and I've tried the warden burger, and it's just as bad as everybody jokes it to be. And it came up recently on that Discovery Channel show. They had a gun there that had that indicator on it as part of the auction. And then, of course, it was a joke, and I was able to talk about it in my experiences at the jail, granted by Sheriff Jones. And so there's some context to it. But there's the kind of culture that is created by someone like him keeps Butler County on the right path and makes it a beacon for all of Ohio and really the nation to follow. And when you go to Republican events, there's lots of Republican events, but I would say not many of them are as good as what you find in Butler County, Ohio. Butler County, Ohio, very strong Republican Party, very strong Republican foundation base, and it certainly is the foundation of MAGA country. I could tell stories all day long about how it went from the Tea Party movement to MAGA, and a lot of the people that were there with me at this event were there at the very start of supporting Trump. So understand all that. But even Sheriff Jones being sheriff, winning so much, says that people support him and that he's actually an embodiment of the character of Butler County. So when people look around, and as I looked around that room, I just thought about all the interesting people that are in Butler County that really make things click in a way that is good for people who live here. And that's why property values are so high. It's why it's so successful. It's one of the most desired places to live on planet Earth. And a lot of it goes back to the foundation of support of gun rights. And then to have a sheriff who supports that emphatically, and he is an accurate representative of the kind of personalities that are in Butler County, Ohio. And you heard that in his speech. That he that's why he's successful, but he's successful because the people of Butler County want that kind of representation. And I think it's a larger lesson to those who are in authority positions. And it's just a reminder when you go to these when you go and you see Mike McNamara's children and see his nice wife, and you talk to all these people who have very solid beliefs in law and order, and the foundation for all that is firearm understanding, training. There's a security that comes out in the youth that even if you have Sheriff Jones is going on his seventh term, or George Lang, who is majority whip for the state of Ohio, and this is his district in the Butler County, and you look at all the people who were at these events that are very prominent, and you strip away the social facade, and you have people who have belief systems they can share in and build a good society off of. And that's why Butler County at its foundation is so successful. And this isn't a bunch of fringe lunatics running around with guns talking about overthrowing the government. This is the government. This is the government that people want through a republic. And these are the representatives that are the embodiments of that character. And it is great to go and see those people gathered in one place, even if it's for an evening. The food was fantastic. The company was really good. It was nice to just sort of relax around common, normal people for a little while. And I think we were there, my wife and I were there for 3 or 4 hours. And I enjoyed every minute of it, and the company that we were with. And it just it just reminds you that no matter what you hear on the nightly news, and no matter how they try to slant it towards some progressive agenda, we're not victims to that progressive agenda. We've been accommodating to allow them a seat at the table. And we don't really care for their opinions outside polite society. So it's easy to feel discouraged that there are people out there who are just broken people, and they want to build a government to accommodate their brokenness. But one thing that becomes very clear when you see the youth that come to events like this, that this fundraiser was dedicated to, and you see the light in their eyes in those young people. And I see it I've seen it at rodeos. You see it in Christian groups, Bible study groups, where you have good, strong families, good, strong support structures from the general congregation. You see that same bright-eyed, they look at you straight on. There's no fear of, I'm dealing with some other people, so I'm timid. They are very confident, and it starts by learning how to handle firearms. It learns how to manage danger properly, and you build confidence on it, and that building that confidence over time under the supervision of other adults produces good people who end up going to those events for the next several decades. And that's why the Republican Party is so strong in Butler County. And that's why you had such good representatives in these kinds of events. But it's not just who's there now, it's the next generation as it grows into these things. And I am very encouraged to see young people like at this event. Like Mike McNamara's kids, I love their cowboy hats. I love seeing young people who are in that early age group walking around with cowboy hats, boldly stating that they're separating themselves from a secular society with a declaration of values, which is why I always wore cowboy hats and why I still wear cowboy hats. I go somewhere to this day and people say, well, why are you wearing a cowboy hat? Why do you wear a cowboy hat all the time? Because I want to say, I don't agree with the direction that civilization's going, and it represents traditional values, and I'm making sure that that is a declaration of foundation for discussions, anything with me, knowing that I'll be accommodating of other people's opinions. I'll sometimes just listen. I may not agree with a word they say, but people have their own way of dealing with things, and they have to come to the truth in whatever means they find to do so. But the cowboy hat and shooting sports and gun ownership have always, for me, been the foundations of a healthy society, of healthy people. And by taking away the ability to have tyrannical elements, authority figures rule over your life, the ownership of guns and the declaration of traditional values that work and matter, family building, strong individual centralization of priorities. All those things are what make a healthy society. And when they all come together in a room for this wonderful auction to raise money for Friends of Youth Shooting Sports in Butler County, I think it's a great thing. And it was a wonderful evening, and I appreciated the invite very much. It's nice to see good people doing good things for 4 or 5 hours on a Friday night. And I enjoyed the experience quite a lot. So did my wife, a lot. And I loved meeting all the young people who are part of the next generation and seeing that bright in their eyes. It's very refreshing. Good to see. That's why it's worth fighting for goodness. Anyway, it's Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you haven't read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you'll love it. Anyway, have a good day. See you later.
Thank you for listening.